So now let's do a quick segment. We'll run through some scenarios and basically just ask the question, who do you trust more? And these are decisions that it will most likely face to a certain extent throughout our drafts. And so when you're on the clock wondering, all right, who do I trust more? Who do I trust more? I got to make a choice. And you've looked at the facts. You've looked at your gut feeling. You've considered your gut feeling. Ultimately, you got to pull the trigger on somebody. Who do you trust more? That's kind of the last question that you ask. All right, who do I trust more? Boom, and then you pick. All right, so here we go. Let's run through a few here today. Let's start with who do you trust more, Najee Harris or Josh Jacobs?
Oh, this is a tough one because Najee Harris has not looked good through the last couple years, and Jaylen Warren has looked exceptional when he has come in, and even in the preseason, he had a huge touchdown run in the last preseason game. But everything that Pittsburgh is saying is, no, Najee's our guy. Don't worry, he's the workload. And then on the opposite end, Josh Jacobs has looked fantastic over the last couple years, but there's been no commitment from Las Vegas to want to have him involved and keep him around. I think I will probably lean Najee Harris for this one, just because I think the confidence of the coaching staff, I think he will still be involved in the offense, even if Jaylen Warren gets a little bit more involved. And I think that the Pittsburgh offense will be much better this year than the Las Vegas offense. So there is room for both those running backs to succeed if they do give a little bit more work to Jaylen Warren.
So this is insight into my draft strategy. Usually when I look at a team overall, I like to focus on, okay, I'm going to focus on the receivers. I'm going to focus on the quarterback. I'm going to focus on the running back, or I'm going to focus on the backup running back. So with the Steelers, I'm focused elsewhere beyond Najee. And so he's just not on I'm not going to pick him. It's just unlikely that I would take him this year. But I would rather have him than Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is on my do not draft list. Under no circumstance, I'm not taking Josh Jacobs. So I don't think he may not show up. If he does, he hasn't been there. Is he going to be in shape? I don't know. Is he going to get injured right away, which happens so often with these kind of guys that hold out? And then also, I'm intrigued by Zamir White. So I'm going to target Zamir White in drafts, and maybe he'll be the guy this year. And whatever Josh McDaniels has set up from a rushing attack and why Josh Jacobs thrived last year, maybe that translates. And maybe Zamir White can take advantage of that. So that's where I come out on that. All right, here's a tough one. Who do you trust more, Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson?
I think I'm going to have to go with Garrett Wilson here because it's almost a question of who do you trust more, Derek Carr versus Aaron Rodgers, which it feels weird saying Aaron Rodgers because, like, from a trustworthy standpoint, he feels like the least trustworthy person in the NFL a little bit, where Derek Carr is like, just a great guy. But at the end of the day, we are talking about one of these guys he's been a Pro Bowler. Derek Carr's been good, but he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Famer when he retires. He has something to prove by going to New York. I just think the situation there is slightly better than Olave's. But at the end of the day, I think both these guys are great picks. I would not be upset with anyone that said Olave over Garrett Wilson.
You can't go wrong. I'm just leaning toward Olave this year. He's the guy that I'm targeting. Saints are the team that I'm targeting there. We'll see who Rodgers favors. I mean, I imagine Garrett Wilson's going to have an awesome year. But does he go to his boy Alan Lazard because he trusts him? Do they go so run heavy in New York? Is that going to be their strategy to try to slow down, kind of other high powered offenses? Will they have enough juice to keep up with if Miami gets Jonathan Taylor? I mean, that offense, are you kidding me? Buffalo. I mean, so they're going to need Garrett Wilson, no question about it. Or the other route is you just run with Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, out of the backfield, Michael Carter. I mean, there's a lot there. So, all right, let's do a couple more. This is interesting. Veteran wide receivers, Tyler Lockett or Brandon Cooks?
This one's really tough for me as well because last week or a few weeks ago, I said I had a weird feeling about Tyler Lockett and that I didn't really trust him. But Brandon Cooks is the example I used of why we shouldn't trust Tyler Lockett going into this season. I think I trust Brandon Cooks more than Tyler Lockett, which is probably crazy for a lot of people to hear because Tyler Lockett's been the guy that has finished as a top 15 receiver for the last, 5 straight seasons, and Brandon Cooks is not. But if we look at their situations, I think Dallas's offense is overall better than Seattle's. I think Dak Prescott is more trustworthy than Geno Smith. We've seen multiple years of solid performance out of Dak Prescott. Geno, we hope it's for real, but we have only really seen one season out of him. And I also trust the other options in Dallas less. We know Michael Gallup is there as the number 3 receiver. He's been injured, hasn't really produced. Whereas JSN, I'm pretty confident is going to be fantastic as a number 3 receiver in Seattle. Noah Fant's going to be great there. Whereas I don't really know who the Dallas tight end is going to be. I know Jake Ferguson is the guy that they hope is going to fill Dalton Schultz's role. But I think there's less competition for Cooks, and I think there's more stable QB play for Cooks as well. So I think he would be the one that I trust more.
I like both, and Cooks is definitely a target for me, and I also like CeeDee Lamb. So, but Lockett is so dependable year after year. He's just the guy. And so the rookie wide receiver in Seattle, he broke his hand, NJS, and so from what I've been hearing too, it's like he might cut into a little bit more of DK Metcalf versus Lockett. So I still trust Lockett. I think I would. Oh gosh, if I was on the clock with those two guys, I'd probably say Lockett because I've seen it happen in Seattle. I haven't seen Cooks in Dallas just yet.